Welcome to Alpha Wolf Capital. I'm Tim, and I want to personally thank you for stopping by. Between the OTC, New York Stock Exchange, and NASDAQ, there are over 22,000 companies traded publicly. I feel that small businesses are the backbone of America. The number one reason for this channel is to help small companies gain exposure with potential consumers, investors, even partners. Take, for example, today's guest, Dan Bradr, CEO of Ideal Power, who has a new kind of semiconductor power switch, which can reduce conduction and switching losses by 50 to 90%. This company is well positioned to benefit from battery storage power as well as EV. But I'll let Dan tell you more about that in a moment. It's important for you to understand that this is not a paid for promotion. I do not collect compensation for the interviews I do here. I do look for companies that could potentially provide an above average return on investment, but that is not the primary reason for the channel. There's a thing called impact investing. It's tied to environmental, social, and governance. I think that is a very narrow definition of what impact can be. By helping a small company become a large corporation, if you and I can become ambassadors of a product because the values of that company align with our own, think of all the jobs that will be created as that small company becomes a big company. Think about the community that that company is in. Typically, they thrive along with the company. This channel is to help companies that are relatively unknown become known so that they can build a following and they can have brand ambassadors that share their vision, share their mission, and are willing to do what they can to help have a positive impact on humanity. That's what this channel is all about. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial advisor. I recommend highly that before buying any security, speak to a financial advisor and do your own due diligence. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with a follow-up interview to an exciting story. New product, complete. And when I say new product, this is a new architecture. This is not a Me Too item. This is something that has really been a differentiator for Ideal Power. Ticker symbol is IPWR. We got the CEO, Dan Bradr, here. Dan, thanks for coming in and giving us an update.
Tim, it's my pleasure.
So you've had a lot of news releases, man.
Yeah, once we've gotten through, learning how to make this unique semiconductor product, it's really now been all about commercialization. So we've had quite a few things happening that are pretty exciting as part of us commercializing the technology.
So can you give us some bullet points, some highlights of what you think maybe the street is not recognizing?
Sure. One of the places where our technology applies is in things like electric vehicles. And we have a funded development program with Stellantis, who's the fourth largest automaker in the world. I mean, they own Dodge, Chrysler, Fiat, Vauxhall, Maserati, a whole bunch of brands. They're working with us to use our semiconductor technology in the EV drivetrain and also for circuit protection. We've actually completed the first two phases of that program, and we're getting ready to go into phase 3, which is really the production side of the house, where we work with the tier 1 auto suppliers. They design an inverter for the drivetrain that incorporates our semiconductor technology. And the whole objective for both Stellantis and other automakers we're working with is for EVs, they need to bring down the cost and they need to improve the range of the vehicles. And our technology helps with both of those. So that's clearly one of the big things that's been going on with us. We'll be announcing when we go into phase 3 here shortly, and that'll involve us doing some things like taking our semiconductor devices through third-party auto qualification testing, working closely with several tier 1s that are in the program with Stellantis to supply that inverter based on our technology. But as part of that, we also have been focusing on some of the industrial applications that are going to be earlier adopters of our technology because their design cycles are shorter. So we introduced our first commercial product, what we call the SymCool Power Module. It's really targeted for things like industrial and utility solid-state circuit breakers and circuit protection. We're working with a bunch of very big companies that want to bring circuit breaker products to the marketplace based on our technology. And our technology is really of interest to them because things like circuit breakers are continuously conducting pieces of equipment. Electricity is always flowing through them because they have to be able to act very quickly. With all the EV charging that's going in, all the energy storage that's going in, all the renewable energy, we need better circuit breakers. We need circuit breakers that act much faster. And one that is semiconductor based can literally act more than 100 times faster than a conventional breaker, which makes it safer. You don't have arcs. The faults that you are preventing are much lower because it acts so fast. So our SymCool product is really targeted to that solid state circuit breaker market. We're bringing that out. It's already in commercial shipment today. So we're getting out to some of the companies we're working with on solid state circuit breakers. And we're going to bring out a second product here later this year that is what we call the SymCool IQ. And that puts an intelligent driver with those semiconductors for applications like energy storage, EV charging, solar coupled with energy storage, motor drives. So we'll have multiple products going after the industrial markets while we work through this process with the EV manufacturers to get through their whole design cycle for their next generation of vehicles. And then as part of that, we actually have brought on a second high volume semiconductor fab to make our product because we're a fabless model. We don't want to have the needs for the capital to go build a semiconductor fab. They're just crazy expensive. So we qualified one already in Asia, but not China, but in Asia. And we recently qualified another one in Europe. So we've got two fabs that can produce all the devices we need for our customers for the next several years in very different parts of the world. So if we have another supply chain disruption from COVID or something like that, we know we have some ability to manage that supply chain and the impacts that might come from it. And as part of that, we're looking to now just engage more and more customers. And as part of that, we brought on our first distributor, company called Richardson Electronics. They're a publicly traded company. They are really focused on bringing high technology products to the marketplace. They have a great technical sales team that's great at introducing new technology. And it was interesting. I listened to their earnings call after we made the announcement with them. They mentioned Ideal Power 13 times in their earnings call. So I think we're pretty important in their strategy going forward. And we really like the capability of their team.
That's fantastic, right? I mean, finding a manufacturer's rep to partner with a lot of times, in my view, is not the best call because these guys have a catalog that's like this freaking thick and they're not going to focus on you. I mean, that's the reality of it, right?
Yep.
But it sounds like these guys understand what you're offering the marketplace, and they're pumped. It sounds like to push it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's part of why we selected them because they're not selling commodity parts. They're selling parts that bring really unique value where you're not competing just on price, but you need really strong expertise on the sales side to help those customers in terms of understanding the products and the technology. And that fits right into their sweet spot. So it's just a great fit for us. We're really happy to be working with them.
So when was that announced? That was how long?
That was a couple of months ago. Yeah.
Okay, a couple of months ago.
We've already got orders from them. Yeah.
What are the margins like on your products, Dan?
When we're fully ramped up, our gross margins are going to be in the 40 to 50% range. Now, what's going to happen is we think about folks like the automakers, they're going to want a second source from us. So we've told them, look, when the volume gets to the point where it's truly customer volume driven, we will actually license our technology to other semiconductor companies. And if you think about licensing revenue, it's essentially 100% gross margin. So that 40 to 50% gross margin I talk about is us doing product sales only as we get to volume. And then as we start to license it for specific customers that have the demand for the volume, we'll see those margins improve even further. Because our objective is leverage this huge investment that already exists in the ability to make semiconductor devices and package them and distribute them and stay focused as being a technology company.
So real quick, to just for those maybe that don't know exactly what B-Tran is,
Sure.
break it down as to what it does, why it's
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, a B-Tran is a semiconductor device that's used to control the flow of energy. It's a power switch. Semiconductors are used, you use them every day, whether you realize it or not. They control how the motor in your refrigerator or your washer and dryer works, how they control how the motor in your air conditioner works. If you've got an electric vehicle, you've got a ton of power semiconductors in them that are controlling the flow of energy to and from those batteries. They're used to convert the energy from a solar panel into the AC that you need to use. What we've come up with is a new semiconductor architecture that has two things about it that are really unique. One is it's inherently bidirectional. And that's important because as we use batteries for more and more things like electric vehicles and energy storage for our homes and business, you need to control the flow of energy in both directions through that circuit to charge it and discharge it. Usually it takes four conventional semiconductor devices to do that, two pairs of IGBTs and diodes. We do it all in one device. So one device instead of four. And what's even more important, we do it with more than 5 times lower losses. So there's more useful energy for the application. So in an electric vehicle, that means more miles of range out of the batteries. And a solar installation, it means more kilowatt hours on your, that you can use in your home or business. In energy storage, it means more useful hours out of that storage installation to, to power your business. So it's really all about how do you make technology simpler so it's fewer devices? How do you make it much more efficient? And how do you do it lower cost? Because we're making our technology in silicon. A lot of the industry has decided that silicon's as good as it can get because they don't have B-Tran. So they're going to really exotic materials like silicon carbide and others that are very expensive. So they get better efficiency, but it's at the expense of cost.
Right, right. Uh, I just had a thought while you were talking, and then I lost it. All right, well, we'll just keep going. So, what didn't you have? Weren't you working with the Navy? Was it the Navy that you were working
Yeah,
with?
we had it was the first project we did where the Navy funded us. They wanted to do a solid state circuit breaker using our technology for the ship electrification program. We actually completed that program. We shipped them a couple of hundred devices for the breaker. We hope to be able to take that to another level with them as they work on where's there an opportunity to actually retrofit an existing ship with this solid state circuit breaker because they want to move away from the traditional way they have to manage fuels all over the world, the noise signature of the engines on the boat that gives them more stealth capability. They want more range out of the vehicles. And it was that program that really drew the interest of these really large industrial companies that we're working with now that want to look at B-Tran for solid state circuit breakers for utility and industrial applications.
Okay. Um, have you had? So let's talk about just some housekeeping stuff.
Sure.
How much debt do you have?
Zero.
That's good. And how are you on cash?
Cash, we got plenty of cash. Cash with no revenue, our cash will take us in the middle of 2026. So we're sitting on over 20 million in cash at last reporting. We burn, 8 to 9 million a year. We have some warrants that are coming due in actually next month that are deeply in the money that'll bring in about $1 million. They're $2.32 warrants. So we're in good shape from a cash standpoint.
Okay. What do you think it's going to take for what catalyst do you think it's going to take for the street to recognize what you've got going on here?
I think it's going to be about a couple things. It's going to be about getting to name some of these big customers. So, for example, Stellantis, they actually named us. They selected us as one of the finalists in their venture awards, where they identified the companies based on the impact of the company and its technology in terms of the breadth and depth of the impact on their business. So they selected us as one of the finalists for that. We got a lot of attention from that. We got a great reaction from investors in the street for that. As we get to name some of these other customers we're working with, both other automobile OEMs and other big industrial companies, that's great validation. I think the market's looking for that. As we get through some design wins, with some of these customers where it's clear that they haven't just looked at the technology. We've been designed into a future product that will certainly drive a lot of attention to what we're doing. And just announcing orders as orders start to go from the small orders that we'll have, in the near term here, just as getting parts into customers' hands to them actually ramping up their order volumes. I think that'll also get a very positive reaction. So it's really all on the customer side at this point.
Okay. How many salespeople do you have, Dan?
Well, we have 2 people right now, and of course we've got our distributor with Richardson, and we're going to add another distributor that has good access and expertise in some of the Asian markets that we want to serve, like Japan and others.
Okay. So you're still getting the whole, you're still putting all the pieces together, right?
We are, because a lot of this really is with a new technology. You've got to get that customer base through the education process. You got to tell them what it is, because they didn't learn about it in school. It's new. You got to get them to understand it. You got to get some parts in their hands that the engineers can go in the lab and work with them, and then start to build an opportunity with them where they can think about how do they want to use it in their future products.
Right. Change is tough, right? I mean,
It is. It
I don't
takes time. Big companies move slowly, and there are some that they may love it, but they're just risk averse with doing anything that's new and potentially impactful, but not something that's proven from their standpoint.
It's the second time you've used that word, impact. And what's really funny about that is actually not that funny, but when I first started investing 30 something years ago, all I cared about was making money for me. Mm-hmm. That was it. That's all I cared about.
Motivator.
And then I wanted to help retail investors become smarter investors, right? Mm-hmm. It's a very different dynamic today. People are looking for that quick money, the gas trade or whatever it is. They don't look at a company. What I've always loved about the stock market is that it provides you, maybe I'm not the smartest guy to go out in the world and solve all these problems that we have out there. Mm-hmm. But what's beautiful about the stock market is you can find companies that are passionate about solving problems and they have the technical expertise to do those things.
Yep.
And you can be part owner of that. That's what I think is amazing, right? It's like, by buying shares, what do you become? You become part owner, right? And as shareholders, we can either just sit around and wait for management or whoever to do things to make the company successful, or you can help the company become successful because you're part owner.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly right.
Brand awareness, sharing the product, the story, becoming brand ambassadors.
Yep.
Right. And besides investing, getting involved, understanding what management's vision is, the strategy and how they intend to get there, and why. The why. Why is it so important that this company survives, not only survives, but thrives? Because if you think about it, impact, there is a thing out there called impact investing. Mm-hmm. But they have it narrowly defined to ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And I think that is a very narrow focus, because how is a community impacted by a company like Ideal Power going from small company to a billion-dollar corporation?
Yeah.
How many people do you need to hire to get that growth and to be able to serve your customers, right? And if you think about the impact that has and all the lives that are impacted positively, not just your customers from your new product or the industry, but also your employees, right?
Yeah.
The impact can be massive. And that's what I am really focused on. I mean, as I've gone through this, it's not the investors anymore that matter. To me, it's the companies. The companies that are trying to make the world a better place and have an impact on humanity in a positive way.
Yeah.
That's what we should be focused on, is helping those companies.
Honestly, it's a big part of why I and a bunch of really smart PhDs that work here are here. And if you think about there's a couple of really fundamental changes happening in and around energy in our world. First is, you know, it'll be painful, it'll go in fits and starts, but the automobile industry is going to move, ultimately to electric vehicles. It's pretty much inevitable at this point in time. There'll be a transition period, but at the end of the day, the industry is already going there. Some companies have already said, I'm all in. By this date, I'm not making combustion vehicles anymore. The other thing is renewable energy in many, many places around the world has gotten to be very cost competitive with traditional sources. So we're fundamentally shifting how our energy is made. And we have a grid that wasn't designed for either one of them. We have a grid that was an old hub and spoke model based on central power plants. And now we have all this distributed energy in terms of solar and wind. We've got all this EV charging coming in that's going to displace all the energy that we used to get from gasoline and diesel. And the grid can't do that the way it's currently designed. All three of those need better semiconductors to make them work efficiently, to make it lower cost. And that's what we do. So we don't get the benefit of working with, a trend that's going on. We're working with multiple fundamental changes in our society that are global. So that's why we're excited about it, because we look at these applications. It's like, all right, if we can get these engineers to spend the time to look at this and focus on it, we've never had one say, nah, no thanks, doesn't work for us. I had a guy at a very, very large company who I'm not going to name him, but he ran this part of their semiconductor business. And I talked to him, this was a couple of years ago, before we'd actually figured out how to make the device. And he said, I introduced myself and he said, oh, you're the B-Tran guys. And at first I was surprised he even knew who we were. So clearly they were watching our patent. And he said, that's a really cool device if you could figure out how to make it. Well, we figured out how to make it. So,
And that's exciting stuff, right?
It is.
It was the NVIDIA CEO who said, he likes to tackle really tough, challenging projects, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because by tackling those really difficult things to do, just by that virtue, you're going to have less competition.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody wants to go through the headache of it out, right?
Yep.
So you do something that is really different, unique, tough. His position is this: the more you're willing to suffer, the longer you can suffer.
Yep.
Ultimately, the more successful you will be.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially new technology. New technology is hard. It's technology has gotten more and more complex. It's like anything else. To get that next level of return gets harder and harder and harder, because you get, fundamental laws of physics that you're kind of starting to work against. And we're excited the fact that not only we figured out this technology, not only we figured out how to make it at any conventional semiconductor fab, we've got 85 patents that have already issued that are in the U.S., Europe, China, South Korea, India, Japan. We've got another 42 pending. And we've treated the process to make this, because making a double-sided device is just not traditionally done in the semiconductor industry. They used to just process one side of the wafer. We treat that really unique process as a trade secret. So if somebody in China wants to study our patents, have at it. You'll have no idea how to make this. And candidly, it's probably we spent the bulk of our effort on here the last 5 years is working with a fab that's owned by Teledyne and a couple other ones that we knew to figure out how do you make this thing in any conventional silicon fab.
Right. And now it's just a matter of education and sales.
Yes, it is.
Right.
It takes time, for these big companies, but that's really our focus right now is getting these companies to understand it, get parts in their hands, start to build programs with them so we can get designed into their products and ramp the business.
So you said industrial, right?
Yep.
So we've covered automotive, and like you said, that's a very long sales cycle, right? Anywhere from like 5 to 7 years. It might be shrinking, I don't know, but it's always been a long sales cycle. So industrial applications, who would you say is your most exciting and biggest opportunity at this? You can't name them.
I can't name them, but I can tell you the kind of companies they are. They're the companies that make the industrial equipment for utilities, and industrial facilities. So they are companies like Siemens, Eaton, ABB, Schneider, and we're working with a bunch of them. So
Right.
because they're all, they all understand, hey, there needs to be a substantial change in our infrastructure here, and they want to be the ones that bring those products that actually can enable it because they've got the customer relationships at the utility level. They know how to sell to utilities. Utilities view them as low risk to buy from them because they're so big and profitable. So we can bring them a technology that gives them the ability to bring a product that outperforms their competition. They get pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I would imagine they do.
Yeah.
So what type of so you mentioned the Sim IQ, right? Is
Yep.
that
Yep.
a software uh, component to that or no?
Yeah, there's software to it. What we do is we take the SimCool module is basically 4 B-Tran dies that are packaged up so that you can connect up to it electrically, and the devices all work together. What the SimCool IQ does is there's basically a little board of electronics that has software on it that senses what signals it's getting from, for example, a power converter for energy storage, telling it what it needs to do, whether power goes this way or that way, and what voltage it should be at, and so forth. And it has the intelligence to sense how it's operating and what it needs to do in response to those commands from a controller.
Okay.
So it adds a little bit of hardware to it and software.
So that's not something though that you can collect recurring revenue on.
No, it's not. But for us, it's really all about getting the hardware out, because it's when you think about these big companies bringing products out, if you want to make a utility scale circuit breaker, they don't need one SimCool. They need dozens and dozens of them for every product because they'll parallel them to get to whatever size breaker they want.
Right.
What we shipped to Navy for theirs was 200 parts that they put into an array to make the big breaker that they wanted to demonstrate. So for us, it's really just let's get the hardware out, and then we'll figure out who to collaborate with on some of this stuff. To start to bring others into the fold.
I'm just curious, and I'm not bringing this up because it's a hot topic, but I'm just, this sounds like it's got there is an intelligence factor here, right?
Yeah,
So
there is.
start thinking about artificial intelligence, and is that something that can be, configured into what you're providing?
I think, as some of these applications get more mature, you're going to see the controls get more sophisticated, and you're going to see artificial intelligence start to find its way in as well, so that the overall systems become simpler, where there doesn't have to be a top level controller that's telling the semiconductor device what to do. The semiconductor device not only can sense what's going on, but it knows what to do in response to that.
Okay. Are you excited, Dan?
Yeah, very much so. It's funny. We were here last night. It was about 8 o'clock, and one of our PhDs goes, "Hey guys, it's getting dark out." I'm like, we didn't even realize it was 8 o'clock because we were just having a good time with some things we were doing, just doing some technical problem solving and just getting creative. And we got another patent idea that came out of the meeting, so it's we're enjoying what we're doing.
I mean, at what point do you? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. Um, we're going to go over the chart in a second here, but the share price is how many shares do you have outstanding, fully diluted, Dan?
7.4 million outstanding. I think all in it's probably around a little over 9 million. Yeah.
That to me is, you're talking 9 million shares. That's nothing, right?
Yep. Correct.
One really solid contract.
Yeah, it'll move a lot on small what the market would think is pretty small volume. 100,000 share day would be huge.
Yeah. So I look at what you're doing. I look at the new architecture. I understand there's that learning curve, but once they understand it, but then it's getting them to and loving the idea, but then it's getting to actually, trust it, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And
And
part of it, we since we're working with Stellantis, we are actually going to have to take our parts through what's called auto qualification, and it's where the parts are subjected to extremes of temperature, where they're cycled back and forth at high temperature to low temperature, where they go through thousands of power cycles because there's codes and standards that semiconductors have to meet to be able to use in the automobile industry. We're going to be starting that process here later this year. And the good thing is that actually is very helpful for the industrial applications because they love parts that are auto qualified. Because let's face it, if you're in a utility breaker, you don't have to withstand shock and vibration of a vehicle and a lot of the stuff that you have to go through. So it really tells the industrial applications, hey, this is a really robust part in terms of its readiness for use.
okay, that makes sense, right? I mean, are there other, I guess, testing facilities that or things that you can do that validate would help validate the product?
Yeah, I mean, the third party testing that we're going to do for automotive certification covers a huge suite of tests that look at high humidity, they look at extremes of temperature, they look at power cycling, they look at short circuits, how much beyond the rated power can a device withstand before it fails. I mean, it's really comprehensive. So it will give the industrial side all the information they need in terms of, all right, how robust really is this product and the package that it's designed into for electrical connections.
So I don't know do you watch Tucker Carlson at all?
Uh,
This,
I'm usually still working.
so I had Dennis Quaid on, of all people,
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah,
And but what was really interesting is what Dennis Quaid came on there for was his concern about our grid.
yeah.
And that I think he stated the fact that transformers, like you can't just order a transformer and have it
Oh
like
gosh, no, no,
it takes like 2 years,
yeah.
which is really scary. But
Well,
his big thing is, it's not a matter of when, if it's a matter of when solar flares are going to take out our grid.
it happens. It happens. And just so you're aware, the average transformer that's out there is probably over 35 years old.
So he's saying that there are like relay switches, and I don't know if this is where you play it,
Yep.
but he's saying there are solutions that could be implemented now that, would protect us from that kind of an outcome.
And that's exactly the kind of stuff we're talking about. Because if you think about it, if there is some disturbance in the grid from something that's happened that, was unpredictable, like a solar flare, the faster you can react, the more likely you're going to be able to prevent damage to the system. And that's why there's this interest in having semiconductor-based breakers, because of the fact that they actually act in microseconds in terms of being able to protect equipment downstream by opening the breaker.
The challenge that he said is that because it's not a federal, it's each state's got their own power provider, right?
Yep.
It's not a uniform. It's like the industry is not going out and putting these switches in to the transformers because they don't have to. They don't have to spend the money, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty scary when you think about it.
Hey, we're in Austin, Texas. I mean, we had a major power outage because we had cold weather, which doesn't happen very often. And the reason that it happened was utilities didn't insulate equipment because they didn't have to. So, we're going to have a lot of disruptions in our power supply over the coming years, particularly as you think about all the EV charging that's going to go in, that people are going to be drawing energy from the grid that originally wasn't contemplated when that distribution system was put in.
Which is again is scary because
It is.
I have worried about somebody hacking it. I mean, remember that pipeline that got taken over?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I started thinking, man, what if somebody hacked into our grid and over our grid?
Yeah.
And I read a report that like in 3 weeks' time, if we don't have everything runs on electricity. Everything, food, our water supply, everything is reliant upon electricity.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, I think we lose a third of our population in like 3 weeks' time. If
Well,
you
I
don't,
mean, look what's happened here recently in Houston. A level one hurricane, but 250,000 people out of power during the heat and peak humidity of the summer, and multiple people have died.
right. This is
Our grid's going to be pretty vulnerable here as we go along. And unfortunately, it's going to take some of these incidents to really get to the point where regulators are requiring utilities to actually make investments to make it more robust.
which is where again you come in.
It is.
Which to me says you're positioned extremely well.
We're pretty excited about the opportunities. We wish these big companies would go faster, but nonetheless, the problems are there and they're not going away.
The way that I see it, and it's not just you. I mean, there are companies out there that are attacking huge problems that cost the country billions of dollars. Um, Utilities. It's funny that you bring that up because this company, if you think about this, Dan, we have 2.6 million miles worth of paved road in the United States.
Hmm.
We have 35 million miles of underground utilities.
Yeah.
And we don't know where they are. We don't know where they're.
And the sad part of it is, I mean, it's the nature of how the industry was created, but the utilities have a regulated rate of return. So there's no incentive for them to take risk to do something new in terms of technology or something that would subject them to a prudency review that, did they make a wise investment here or not? Because, they're always kind of on the losing end. If they weren't proactive to prevent the outage from happening, it's kind of their fault. And if they want to do something new that hasn't been done before, well, they don't get any increased return for the risk they take because the regulators say, no, your rate of return is 10%. That's what it is. You don't get any more if you take any risk.
Kind of a screwy system.
It is.
But I think is who do you what customer besides the automotive guys that you're going through right now? Do you think there's a big industrial customer that if you land a good size contract with would be like these guys guys are real. These guys are a player.
Yeah, there are because we get a lot of people that want to get parts from us, that want to work with our team, and we've been kind of deliberate in terms of pushing some of them aside because a small company that might have 10 people working on a really novel idea takes as much of our time and resources as a $10 billion company that will ultimately drive orders of magnitude more volume. So when we get to start announcing some more of these customers, there'll be names that people recognize.
Right. And that's last time we spoke, that was kind of the carrot that was being dangled, was the opportunity to name the customers. But
yeah,
sometimes they're not going to want to be named because maybe they're looking at it as a competitive advantage for them.
Oh, absolutely. We've actually asked several of them when we started working with them, can we name you? And they all said, no, we're working under NDA. We don't want our competitors to know, what we're doing. But as they get further along, Stellantis wouldn't let us name them, but they ultimately named us. So, the key is just to keep them moving through that process. So eventually they'll either let us name them or they'll name us as part of some new product they want to bring out.
All right. Do you feel that in the next six months, Dan, you have maybe a good solid catalyst for the stock?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think we'll certainly get into phase 3 with Stellantis here. We've got several customers we're working with. I'm hoping that we'll either get another funded development program with an automobile OEM or be able to start to talk about who some of these industrial companies are that we're working with, and getting some new products out there and start announcing their sale as well, and bringing on another distributor or two. So I think we've got a lot of things that are going to be coming out here over the next 6+ months that really show continued progress on commercialization.
Anything that keeps you up and you worry about anything?
Oh gosh, I worry about everything. I mean, we got if you're a small company, there's a lot to worry about. I mean, access to capital markets has been terrible since this time last year. Fortunately, we've got plenty of cash. You can get some rogue person want to come in and pursue a patent claim against you, and patent suits cost a lot of money. There could be any number of things. So I mean, we're always a little paranoid, but a little paranoia is probably a good thing when you're a small company. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you have a very compelling story. Let's just recap here. You have zero debt.
Yep.
You have not one new product, but two new products
Right.
that
Yep.
are make companies more efficient, right? Safe.
Yep.
Does it make it
Yep.
safe? Like,
yeah, I mean, if you think about if you have a circuit breaker that can act orders of magnitude faster, it is safer, because when a regular breaker opens, the fact that a traditional breaker opens as slowly as it does is what forms an arc, electrical arc, and that can create a fire.
right.
If you open as fast as a semiconductor device does, there is no arc. Yeah.
So it's safer, right?
It's safer. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
This would be, I think you could consider this an environmental play, ESG play, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the kind of applications we make more efficient, it's things like renewable energy, making solar more efficient, making wind power more efficient, making energy storage coupled with solar and wind more efficient. So there's a definite environmental side of this that we actually help improve and make it more economically attractive.
So a lot of positives here.
Yep.
That I don't think are being recognized. But what I want to do is, if you're not following Ideal Power, I would recommend going to their website and signing up for their investor alerts. That way, whenever they come out with a news release, it gets sent directly to your email, right? I would recommend putting these guys on your radar. I think they're sitting at a very attractive price level. We already talked about the amount of shares outstanding, which is nothing. And if you take a look at the chart, which I'm going to do right now, so you really kind of been trading in a box, is what I like to call it, right? It's kind of between six, let's just call it $7. Between $7 and $8. You had a nice spike up to 14.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're back down into that box again.
Yep.
Right. So I think if you get above, I don't care where you trade throughout the day, it's where you close that matters.
Yep.
If you can get back above that $8 mark, I think that becomes your floor. Right.
Yep.
And
makes sense.
Then I think you could start that lower left, upper right trend, right?
Yep.
And you just had it looks like you had a pretty good move recently here, right?
Yep.
But you're right back at that $8 mark again. That has been acting as resistance. Every time you hit it, you pull back, right?
Yep. Yep.
The best thing that could happen is right now you kind of consolidate sideways. You don't do anything but go sideways for a little bit.
Yeah.
Build up some energy and then take out $8.
Yeah. Get a big news event out there that actually just blows right through it.
Yeah. And then it becomes a solid floor. So I think this is a very it would have been a better entry at 670 or so, but you can't nail it all the time. But this is it's I would say it's building a base. I like to call it a platform, a launching platform, right?
Yeah.
And the bigger the platform, the wider the platform, the higher the space. That's right. The way it works, right? Yep. So I don't think that the $14 that it hit will wind up being the all-time high. I think eventually you will hit that 14 and you will take that 14 out, and then you'll be in blue sky, I think. Yeah. Hold on a second. Yeah, that would be blue sky.
Yep.
So
Yep.
then you have no overhead resistance. Then it gets even more fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think this is one that if you're in an industry where there is the potential that this product could help your company, I guess the thing that I would recommend or suggest is make a phone call, check the product out, get all the specifics, give it a try. I mean, the way I look at it is what hurts by trying, by testing
Yeah.
something out.
Yeah.
If it does everything you claim that it does, then it benefits the company and it makes them more profitable and more efficient. Why not try it?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Exactly. I mean, engineers, we are a conservative lot, but it's really a zero risk proposition to learn more about it and get a couple from us and take them in the lab and look at the data sheet. Does it meet or beat what we said it will do on the data sheet? And we're pretty sure it will.
That's all that should be required for
Yep.
people to make a change. But man, we are stubborn.
We're stubborn, and in big companies, their product planning it's a multi-year plan. So you got to go convince your management team that, hey, that plan that we have, we got to go change it, and we're going to spend money doing different products with different technology. I used to work at General Electric. I mean, I know what that process is like. It's not a quick, hey, we found something better, we're going to go do this. There's a lot of internal work that has to be done to actually change what that product roadmap is going to be. But if you get something that's marginally better, people won't do that. If it's significantly better, you'll find internal champions that will say, let's go do this.
Do you feel as though yours is significantly better?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, that's how we got Stellantis,
All right, Dan. I think we took too long of a time off between our updates, right?
Yep.
But let's when you have something that you feel is meaningful, let's come back and give everybody another update, hopefully sooner.
Okay. Happy to do so. Always like being with you. It's always an interesting discussion.
All right, Dan, hold on one second. I'm going to shut the. You feel as though I missed anything?
No, you hit all the key things.
Okay. All right. Hold on one second. I'm going to shut this off. Thank you for tuning in to another CEO interview here at Alpha Wolf Capital. Today we had Dan Bradr from Ideal Power, ticker symbol IPWR. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, do us a favor, please give us a like, please give us a share, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. All of those things are extremely important to us here at Alpha Wolf, and we appreciate you taking the time to do that. Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.